No, we cannot hear you, Mr. Dhaval. I think there is some issue. You need to log out and log in and check the audio.
The computer audio thing. Usually Zoom is quite simple actually. Doesn't
Yes.
create a problem. We have to anyway wait for some time because people are still joining.
Yes, Professor. Yes.
Okay, am I audible now?
No.
No. This is so weird.
Just headphone, try and see that if headphone works.
I'm putting my headphones. Let's see.
Yeah, now we can hear. Now we can hear. Now we can hear.
Okay, am I audible now clearly?
Yes, very much. Very much.
Hold on. Okay, maybe I'll just use my headphones. I don't know. Something's wrong.
You
All
can
right.
Yeah, you can hear us clearly?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Great. So, first of all, just to update you all that we are now live and we will be live on Zoom as well and as well as on YouTube. So we are there on both the platforms and also on the social media. So with the permission of Professor Vyas sir, Professor Yash and Mr. Dhaval, can we go ahead and start our session for today?
Yes, please.
I would request
yes.
the IT person to please mute the other people. And please keep yourself on mute. Can I request IT? Thank you so much. So a very good afternoon to one and all. At the outset, I would like to welcome Mr. Dhaval Joshi, founder, SIMULABS and alumni of NID, Professor Yash Uday Sheth, Professor Pearl Academy, Professor Pradyumna Vyas, Senior Advisor, Confederation of Indian Industry, President-elect of World Design Organization, Board Director of the World Design Organization, former Director of National Institute of Design, and to all our esteemed participants. I welcome you all to the session of Design Talk Series organized by Confederation of Indian Industry in collaboration with the World Design Organization and Pearl Academy. The series is conceptualized to sensitize the Indian stakeholders the benefits of investing in design. This initiative will not only give boost to the existing design sector, but will also expand the thinking process on how to be more innovative and creative. Global stalwarts from different parts of the world will be invited to share their journey and experience with Indian audience to learn and gain insights from. I am Nitish Das, representing CII Design Team. Will be happy to share that CII has been earnestly pursuing the strategy for promoting and leveraging design towards accelerating economic growth. CII has diligently worked to bolster and support the economy and society by demonstrating the vital role of design in making businesses more competitive and public services more effective. We are pleased to have our World Design Organization's partnership for this initiative. WDO is an organization with global footprints advocating, promoting, and sharing knowledge of industrial design-driven innovation that has the power to create a better world. Our supporting partner, Pearl Academy, is an illustrious 31-year of legacy, where Pearl Academy reigns as the best design institute, propelling students to soaring heights across creative domains that is fashion, communication design, product design, business, interiors, film, and gaming. With this, I would now like to introduce Professor Pradyumna Vyas. He carries more than 40 years of experience and he is currently the Senior Advisor of Confederation of Indian Industry and the President-elect of World Design Organization board member of World Design Organization, and a former director of National Institute of Design. May I now request Professor Vyas to give his welcome address, please. Over to you, sir.
Oh, in fact, I am eagerly uh, waiting to hear Dhaval Joshi. And just to, you will be formally introducing him, but I would like to just tell about him that I would say that his understanding about technology is much ahead of time. Post NID, he joined Nokia, which was the top selling mobile phone those days, and where he was working on design for Nokia, an Indian application. And then he went to China and cutting edge technology he was working, and afterwards he decided to come back post pandemic, and we are privileged to have him actually. The experience and the contemporary knowledge which he will be talking today, I'm sure students and other participants are going to get immense understanding in this area. So I'm really looking forward to hearing. And Yash, welcome Yash. That I think now it's in your court. You and Dhaval will be talking, and I'm there to listen with all the participants. Welcome, Dhaval. I think this is the beginning. We'll be having more such interaction, and the whole idea of what Nitish has talked about, the sharing the knowledge, the young generation, which is there. If they have a better understanding, obviously they can take challenges and go forward in their career. So I'm looking forward to hearing both of you. Over to you, Nitish, and then you can initiate.
Sure. Thank you so much, Professor Vyas, for this. Now, I would like to introduce our key speakers for today's session, Mr. Dhaval Joshi. Mr. Dhaval Joshi is the founder of SIMULABS, a tech studio dedicated to merging creativity and technology within the advertising industry. An alumni of NID, he has led the interactive entertainment team at Tencent Games in China, working on immersive technologies such as AR and VR. Prior to this, he helped establish the UX research team for Microsoft in China. Early in his career, Mr. Dhaval was involved with Nokia Research and Motorola Research Labs in India, focusing on the use of mobile technologies in emerging economies. Mr. Dhaval remains an active contributor in bridging the gap between industry and academia, having taught at esteemed institutions such as NID, Georgia Tech in Atlanta, and Shenzhen, Nirma University, and serving in an advisory role at MIT IT Pune. Over the years, Mr. Dhaval's work has led to several publications in journals and conferences, and he currently holds 11 US patents. Now, I would like to introduce you to our other moderator, which is Professor Yash Sheth. Professor Yash Sheth is a proficient department lead at Pearl Academy, boasts over a decade of diverse experience. He's a versatile professional and educated in communication design, focusing on game design. Armed with a master's degree in industrial design, specializing in toy and game design from the National Institute of Design, Ahmedabad, alongside a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Mumbai University. Yash's educational background is well rounded. Beyond academia, Yash has acquired valuable industry insights through projects involving machine tool retrofitting, sales and marketing, CNC machine training, and game design workshops. He is equally passionate about exploring technology's intersection with augmented reality and artificial intelligence in design. Professor Yash's dedication to technology driven innovation is evident in his pursuit to enhance user experience and create immersive environments. He envisions AR and AI as tools to revolutionize interactive storytelling and educational game design, blurring the lines between physical and digital realms. With an unwavering commitment to excellence in education and design practice, Professor Yash Sheth seamlessly integrates technology, AR, and AI to deliver exceptional outcomes. Now, I would like to invite Professor Yash Uday Sheth to initiate the conversation with Mr. Dhaval Joshi. Over to you, Professor Yash.
Thanks, Mr. Nilesh, for incredible advice. So, just after second one, we are looking at
Your voice is breaking.
Yes, your voice is breaking. I think just check it. Just test it first. Yeah.
Okay,
No, still it is.
It is echoing actually. Yeah.
just a moment.
Can you please speak? Sorry. Yes, we can hear you, but there is some internet connection at your end.
Okay, is the question echoing? How is it?
Yeah, it is echoing and it is breaking. It's cracking actually. Professor Yash. Apologies, Mr. Dhaval. Just need a couple of minutes. I think there's some technical issue. Sometimes technology brings us in a very awkward situation. We'll just wait for 1 or 2 minutes and he will join back. So,
Sure. No worries.
Voice or
yes, we can you speak something?
yeah, audible and still echoing.
Can't hear you properly. Can't hear you properly, Mr. Yash.
Would you like to join with your mobile or something? Another. No, it's frozen actually.
Hello, everyone audible now? Hello.
I suggest you join with another device, maybe mobile or.
You can probably join from your phone if you wish to, because that will be easy for you to communicate.
Hello.
Hello,
Hey, Yash.
is this
Yes,
better?
yes. Yes, you are back. Can you hear us? And can you also speak something so that we can
Yes,
reconfirm?
I can hear you. Am I audible? Is this clear?
Far better.
Yes.
Far better. I think now it's
Okay.
perfect.
Possibly, I don't know. So yeah, we are in the world of technology and some tech
Yes.
glitch
I
has
think
happened.
I think we
And
need
I
to know
think possibly
the
here we can
technology
take
part.
forward with Dhaval, sharing some experiences, some anecdotes over his journey through China and all of it. How has he, kind of faced this kind of issues, any tech issues, and how he has kind of, incorporate technology and creativity in his entire journey. Dhaval, over to you.
Hi. Hey, so all right. So first of all, thank you so much for having me here, especially Mr. Das, Professor Vyas, CII, and Yash. Um, it's a privilege to sort of be on this platform, and I think you guys are doing great in terms of organizing this so that people like me can share our experiences and perhaps also learn a little bit from the audience during the question. So with that, yeah, brief intro. I think my intro was already sort of shared by Mr. Das, but yeah, basically, I graduated with design degree and then moved on to part of the research. So I was always interested in research part of design, not really design. So that was, with Motorola and Nokia. And then I basically thought that maybe it's a good idea to learn the hardware part of things. So there was an opportunity to move to Shenzhen in China, and I did so. And in China, I basically worked first with Microsoft for about 5 years, looking after their Surface, Microsoft Surface device user research. And then there was a very interesting opportunity where I got to work with the Tencent Games department. So if you have played PUBG Mobile, I was part of that BU, not the same department. But so yeah, that was quite an interesting experience, being in China and sort of working in a very sort of different culture and industry, so to say. Yeah, so that's been experience so far. And after I have moved back, now I'm working helping brands simplify technology for their ad campaigns. That's what we do. So we typically work with agencies to help them leverage technology.
That's nice. Yeah. So, Dhaval, just want, we have all these Make in India initiatives, and recently, even now, Prime Minister shared his focus on, design in India.
Mhm.
But we somewhere see, like it's picking up pace, but not as aggressively as, we would have thought of. So, what is your take on it? And, do you really think that design in India can actually be the mantra for the coming decade?
Right. So, very interesting question. Of course, I cannot predict the future, but I think I do see some, sort of potential, you can say seeds of or opportunities, right? So, for example, for India to, be as a design leader or at least, a big player in the design world, it should like we should focus on leveraging the growth areas or industries that India already has, right? So if you look at the whole tech industry, so India is already an established global powerhouse, right? So it's kind of natural to use that platform to propagate design. So one of the things that I think personally is we are not doing enough marketing in terms of like how we have done it for technology. So I think we need to sell ourselves a little bit more and make ourselves a little bit more visible, right? So in terms of potential, you look at the Indian startup scenario, for example, right? So there is Zomato, Swiggy, Paytm, etc. And if you look at all these services and apps that they have developed, I mean, these are very well designed, very thoughtful experiences, right? So we are seeing that maturity. So in terms of potential, it's already there. But yes, in terms of momentum, I think we are a little bit shy in terms of just sort of keeping it within the industry and giving preference to technology and things like that. But I think we should go out there and sort of push design a little bit more at different stage. It could be, through events, through conferences, through inviting, the outside world to sort of learn about Indian design industry. So yeah, I mean, I believe there is a lot of potential. It's just that we have not opened up ourselves enough to the world. So when you ask someone, like, when you talk about India, like, everyone says, "Oh, you're from software." No one knows India from a design point of view, right? But I think that could change because we have that potential. We just need to fine tune the way we calibrate how we speak to the outside world.
Interesting, interesting. As you were mentioning that, like India has been associated traditionally with software, or possibly, the craft and the fields. Okay. But then there are certain nations who do traditionally well or perform better. And they are known to be great design countries. How and what would be the way in which we as Indians and India as a country can be the leader in the field of design, and possibly we can be recognized by our designs in the world.
Right. That's actually a very good observation. I mean, you are right. So traditionally, I mean, it's not even like East and West. We have examples everywhere, right? So look at, for example, Japan, so well matured, so well developed, and then look at Scandinavian countries where, for example, cities like Copenhagen, or even the whole philosophy of looking at design in a very philosophical way. I think one of the common things that both of these or most of these countries have is, design is, I mean, there is a certain level of cultural appreciation for design in their everyday lives. So if you let's say if you focus on Japan, they have this whole philosophy, at least the olden generation in Japan, to sort of derive joy from paying attention to details, right? So there is so much sort of energy and resource that is invested in appreciating design. So at the same time, you look at let's say urban planning in Copenhagen, for example. They have done an amazing job in terms of making the city cycle friendly. So it's a high level design thinking, right? Like, how do you solve a problem yet you increase the quality of life? And all these things, I think, come from a deep appreciation of design in everyday lives. So I think India traditionally, I mean, craftsmanship and artistry were always part of like Indian history. So in terms of potential, like, we already have this. But I think, I mean, thinking of it, there could be three ways, for example, that like India can level up at a certain stage in terms of everyday things, right? So one is, I would say, so, all right, I'll get back to that thing. So one is, as I was, speaking earlier, that maybe we could find relevant platforms for us to sort of.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hi. Can you please mute yourself?
Yeah, I would request IT to kindly mute the participants and only unmute the people who are there in the speaker. Thanks.
Yeah. So basically, I was saying, like, we should sort of, in a way, marry design thinking and design in what we do in terms of software, startups, everyday services, etc. Second is design education and awareness. So for example, we could, and it's already happening. I mean, look at the kind of design schools that we have in India compared to, let's say, 10 or 20 years ago, right? So it's already happening. So these are all positive signs. And then the third part is perception management, which I was earlier pointing to, that I think we are a little sort of in our own world, so to say. So there are these undercurrents about appreciating design, but I think we have to bring it to a little more mainstream, which is already happening in terms of people talking about designs, people parents talking about design as a career for their children. So these are all good signs, and I think this is basically leading to direction where design, just like software is, maybe design could become another sort of feather in the cap of what India can offer to the world.
That's interesting. Um, talking about all the tools and everything that's being offered, and since we're talking a lot of technology, and I've been to a lot of places, and there have been discussions about AI versus designers. What is your take on this? Do you think AI is creating a threat for designers, or is it a tool that can enhance the skills of designers?
Right, it's a very controversial sort of topic to talk about. I think there are so many strong views on this. I personally think, and I've observed that there is a huge disruption in creative industry for sure. No one can deny it. And if we are denying it, I think we are going to be on the losing end. So there is a lot of automation that is coming to design, and that too from a creative point of view, not just in terms of tools. Like it's not the new Photoshop. It's the new thinking Photoshop, so to say, like something that can actually think, right? So I would say that designers who don't adapt, uh, for sure, they'll be under threat because the industry will demand, these skills going forward. In fact, already now, like if you just go to LinkedIn and look up, do a search for like UX and AI, you will see, there are so many sort of the JDs, the job descriptions have changed. Now people are looking for experience with, these kind of tools and skills to basically leverage these kind of tools, because that's going to be part of like the workflows of various industries, and not only software. I mean, it is happening in advertising, it is happening in other, you can say, older industries like construction, logistics, manufacturing. So it's everywhere. I think we as designers should just like pull ourselves to reskill ourselves and be more relevant to the future.
Nice, interesting take. Um, Also, design thinking is very intricately linked to empathy, which relates to behavior and cultural learnings. Also, there was recently, like some years back, India is becoming intolerant and so on and so forth. So, is this something that parents and society at large need to inculcate at early in young age, young kids? And do you think design thinking be made a default natural skills to the students or to the kids?
Okay, that's an interesting question. I mean, I wouldn't comment on the political side of things, how design or what design can do. But I think from a education and early exposure point of view, right? So think about this. Let's say if we do a sort of thought experiment, right? Imagine design thinking was like a language. Okay. So imagine educating our kids in English, for example, if there was a parallel, only when they are in college. Like imagine what would happen if we actually did that, right? We will not be what we are today, because then they, like with language, people then learn how to express themselves, communicate, exchange ideas. So I think it's similar with design thinking, or any part of design thinking, right? If you teach kids early on to look at the world from an empathetic point of view, to sort of understand, observe, to iterate, to test things out, and then sort of make a decision. I think this is a very horizontal sort of skill, right? It is not like, design thinking only works in business or in software or something. So if we teach kids at a very sort of early age, I think they will be better citizens, they will be better designers, or even no matter if they become better, sort of engineers or scientists or whoever they want to be, I think they will have the skill for their life to look at things, through different lenses of, performance, human, societal, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's a great idea if we can sort of, have this exposure early on, just like language.
Nice. And there was this one documentary which I'm pretty sure, Dhaval, you must be knowing, on Lota.
Oh, yes.
So, how Lota is there, and, the way Charles and Ray Eames, they came, they discovered Lota. I mean, like, made documentary on Lota and its applications, the design vision, across it. Do you think Lota, the concept of Lota still exists today? Is it still there, or we have moved ahead of it, or there is a changing landscape in design? And what is your take on this?
Right. I mean, no, I distinctly remember Lota. I think this was one of the first documentaries that we saw at NID, very memorable. It took a little bit time to comprehend like why it was made, but then like when you look back, I mean, sort of realize, right, the context of it and sort of what message it was trying to give. So I think maybe the metaphors have changed. Maybe Lota was a symbol maybe back then of the sort of idea that they wanted to communicate about sustainability or adaptability. Something that solves a problem in different forms with different materials. So I think philosophically it's still relevant, but perhaps the metaphors have changed, right? So I mean, if the next like version of this is what we call in the West is this whole circular economy, and then people looking at how to reuse things or make things with sustainable materials, keeping the forms and the shapes same, yet experimenting with materials so that they are more accessible and sort of hurt the environment in a sort of manner that perhaps the modern way of manufacturing, or let's say this whole consumption sort of mindset in a way balances it out. So yeah, I mean, I totally think philosophically it's relevant. It's just that maybe metaphorically it has changed. The symbols have changed.
Interesting. And what is your take on the lifestyles that's changing in India? Uh, Earlier, if you would see, like, you would buy a cloth or, and then it would become something else. And then in the end, it would become like what we call as pocha. And that was a traditional, like, way of lifestyle, how you could repurpose, recycle, reuse things. And again, within the design ambit of it, it's coming back. But, the Western world is taking credit to it. So do you think we need to look back at our original way of lifestyle and, compare it with the way we used to, like we were living and how we are leading our lives currently?
Right, right. So yeah, uh, I think Asia in general. So I mean, I've seen this firsthand in China also. So China, like India, is very aspirational, which means there's a lot of young population who are becoming rich. And when I say rich, like they are sort of moving in the social sort of ladder, right? From where they were to a better position. That means they can afford a lot of things which they could not. And which means that they look up to these consumption economies, where basically things sort of play a role in how they measure progress in life. And that is sort of what India is going through right now, where things like fast fashion, for example, affordable but very wide variety of lot of options available, and it leads to a lot of wastage and things like that. So this appreciation for longevity has sort of in a way eroded in India. Environmentally, of course, it's not a good thing to do, right? I think what has happened in the West is so just like we are attracted to the new, I think life goes in a full circle. So they are trying to find sort of roots in the old things, like how to live sustainably, how to hurt the environment, as less as possible, how to recycle things. So I think this is like a yin yang, like we sort of taking their lifestyle and they're trying to adopt some good things about how or what we were in the past. But I think there is one key motivator here, which is the sort of economic incentive to do so, right? So there is a huge industry in the West. So there's a lot of funding from the government. There are a lot of rebates that happens. There are educational programs, and of course, people pay premium for anything that is categorized as sustainable or recycled, or something that is not sort of mass manufactured or very synthetic, right? So that is also some kind of social signaling. So I think from a social and from a commercial point of view, I think India is not there yet to sort of appreciate. I think there are some pockets, but I think it's still not mainstream. Perhaps I don't know, a couple of decades, and then maybe we'll go back to like, oh, this was all like a mad run. Maybe we should just like look up to how we were sort of reusing things and sort of caring about environment in the old days. So that I think is quite a solid possibility, I would say.
And do you think design thinking and inculcating the design spirit into people can help this achieve the target?
Uh, I mean, it's hard to say. So theoretically, yes, because you're just making people aware that just like, I mean, from a point of view of a consumer, just like he has aspirations, his aspirations are leading to a certain uh, impact on the environment, right? And if that awareness or if that lens is made very clear, I think people will start appreciating, the fact that their decisions of buying things or consuming things, those behaviors can change or should change. But I think given that, we are in this, I mean, Indian economy is growing very fast. We are all sort of going towards, achieving the next trillion or whatever that is. So in this, let's say if this was like a priority list, I think, sustainability is perhaps not in the top priority at this moment. And there is no way we can push it from a philosophical point of view. The only motivator I think we could have is, have clear incentives from a economics point of view, which will, help a lot of people become more aware about this and become practitioners of sustainability, I would say.
So I know the Dhaval that you have traveled a lot across the world, and I'm pretty sure you would have been and seeing the various design principles across. Uh, Dubai in general, in particular, have set up something called as the design district, and Qatar has also followed suit in setting up a
Mm.
design district. They hold the biennials and the design shows, etc., in those districts. We at India also at Bangalore did give it a try way back in 22, 23, but it has not taken that, the mileage, and it's still on the planning stage, on the drawing board. Do you really think these kind of design districts are actually helping Dubai and Qatar becoming the design leaders in the world, and possibly we at India should be looking at it much more, kind of in a more serious manner?
Right. So yes, you are right. I mean, I think from a leadership point of view, these countries, have been sort of playing a very important role in promoting design, and they understand, like, it is not about just showing something. They know that better experiences will lead to better products, better economics, and generally sort of growth and improvement of quality of life, right? Uh, I think India is a little bit unique. So one observation, that I have is, and especially like when I zoom out, is if I compare this to, let's say, Dubai, or even, for example, China, I think India, the design is not seen as an independent sort of discipline or a capability, right? It has always been seen through the lens of either, let's say, manufacturing or either through software and things like that. So I think rather than, because we are in early stage, when it comes to design in India, at least in terms of leadership, I think we can leverage, the sort of IT industry. So a very simple example is, like, let's say when we have these conferences, right? So instead of having very isolated conferences of only design, what if you had a, sister conference going on where there is a huge, technology event going on, and then you do an IT. So what happens is, of course, designer as a community will gather at design conferences, but the point is not that. The point of, having a design district or a sort of collaboration event or a space is to expose non-designers to the design discipline, right? So if we figure out ways to attract technology people, people from the sort of public sector, and sort of make them sort of see, what design can do, I think that would be, a great way to promote design. So as a design district, yes, I think a lot of countries, have successfully done this. And this success has sort of, they were able to achieve this success not through only, inviting the design community, but to also exposing the public, the business in general, that, hey, this is what design can do for your business and to your life. So I think if we keep those properties, inculcate those sort of features, in this, public places, then I think Bangalore, Hyderabad, any hub which is either an economic or a technology hub of activity, I think a design space or a district can play a huge role, in sort of improving the standard of design, awareness of design. At the same time, it will benefit all the people who are exposed to, that particular area. So I think that could be a way to, actually make it happen.
And can you relate some incidents or any anecdotes where students can become design experts and learn through engagement activities?
Right. So I think this goes back to the design thinking part, right? Yeah, I mean, I think this was last year. I was actually teaching a systems thinking course, and then one of the group in that, they selected like, we want to do research or we want to do something in sustainability, right? They went out and they basically selected like this religious site. So for example, temples, to see like what can we do here. So they were observing, how, let's say, temple activities go on, and then there is certain sort of bio waste that is generated in terms of flowers and things like that. So to me, it was like obvious, because this kind of thing we could have sort of researched online also. So I sort of pushed them a little bit, like, okay, think about some other angles also. So they went back to, these sort of sites. And then one very interesting thing happened. So they actually went to Devi Mata temple, and then they observed that there is a lot of people, who offer this fabric like a cloth as an offering, right? Interestingly, if you go a little bit deeper down, these fabrics are not biodegradable. These are not cotton. These are like synthetic nylon, whatever, right? A silky looking kind of thing, because it has this gloss and premium quality. Uh, and then they discovered like, oh my God, like this is the real thing. Because let's say flowers, for example, you can still, yes, there is a lot of waste that is generated. And, if you dump them in lakes and rivers, it will hurt those ecosystems. That is correct. They can cause pollution, but they are biodegradable. But if you compare that with something like this, these would just like not degrade at all. So this is actually much more intense problem, than figuring out how to deal with, let's say, flower waste. And this could only come through, those observations and sort of interviews with the priest and the people who were visiting those temples, right? So the same thing could have been sort of stopped at the flower thing, where, yes, I mean, you could recycle it. But if you sort of, dig a little bit deeper, and you, let's say, develop this whole way of, looking at sort of things in detail, but also from a zoomed out point of view, I think, that could sort of bring out very interesting insights. And totally, this is like, if they were not curious enough and methodical enough, they would have completely missed this. So I think it's a great example of, how design thinking and then thinking in terms of systems can actually help you discover or uncover insights that probably, with normal sort of user research methods, perhaps you might not be able to get there.
So Dhaval, here I think you're focusing here more on design research and getting in touch with on ground with people, interviewing and all that. And as we look at so many institutions and places mushrooming and kind of even for UI UX rather, like 10 days may learn UI UX, 15 days, and what is your take on that? Do you think they are able to reach that core crux of design research, and how valuable, according to you, is this particular field of design research?
Right. Hard to say. So one of the things, let's look at the good and bad things, right? So the good thing is a lot of people, are joining design in the mainstream, so to say, right? And people will only join design if there is enough, demand in the market. People, will not, let's say, play with their careers and devote their time and money if there was no, sort of incentive on the other side. So actually, it's a good sign, because then it signals that the industry is growing. a lot of people, want to be there where they see, the potential. So it's good. And also so this is from a student point of view or people who are getting, into this point of view. Um, but the risk or the sort of scary part is if there is an oversupply, especially of semi-qualified designers. I mean, apart from the sort of quality of design and everything, that is one thing. But I think what is already started happening is there is a downward pressure on the remuneration of designers, right? So that is something that I have closely observed. Like it's very hard to, let's say, command a premium on design now because there are just so many options available, to the employers. Only employers or companies who are aware about the quality or pedigree of, designers, I think they are able to sort of, give that premium. But otherwise, it is on the way to getting commoditized. So it's in a way scary, and especially, when it comes with this tools like, if you know Photoshop, you become a designer. Nowadays, you use GPT and you become a researcher. And there is no way to stop it, right? This is going to happen, but it's just that I think at some point industry will figure out, what is good and what is not good. And I mean, I think there is a gradient, so to say, where on one side, there are people who are okay with, a certain, let's say, mediocre level of design. Like look at all the digital advertising, digital marketing sort of industry people, right? If you know Canva, you are a designer, so that kind of thing. And not that I'm not judging them that they're, not good or bad. They are sustaining themselves. Maybe they are, making a lot of money out of that. So that is one level. And then you have on the other side, like really deep design where you are solving a very complex, system level sort of, either a consumer or an enterprise, service, which, is not just visual. It's much, much deeper than that. So I think that capability only students or sort of people who have gone through that years of, exposure and guidance from the experienced people, professors or, industry sort of leaders, they will be able to crack that. So there will always be a market for this. It's just that, on the lower side, the supply has become so much that overall there is a downward pressure on the, sort of remuneration and salaries of what designers can make, at least in the organized sector. Of course, if you are doing a business, then it's completely up to you how you crack it and how much you can get out of it. But from an employment point of view, we can clearly see there is this pressure.
Anything which you would want to kind of suggest and guide the budding designers or the student designers to be mindful of, or any particular thing that they should work towards to, especially towards technology and creativity?
Right. So if this I'm answering this today, so the most relevant thing is understand technology, understand tools. I think we have to move on from this silos of I'm a designer, I don't understand technology, or like this is coding, this is too complex. Not that you have to actually do it, but I think it definitely helps to understand and learn how these things work, right? So if today you just sort of Google or go to LinkedIn and try to find where these jobs are, you will see in the job description design roles in the JD, things like familiarity with LLMs, familiarity with Gen AI tools, enterprise AI, and things like that. So if the differentiator is this, if you learn what these terms mean, if you learn how these things work, at least from a theoretical point of view, then you have an edge, compared to, let's say, other fellow designers who might be focused on, just sort of on the traditional path of design. So, and perhaps this is more true in technology. I cannot comment on, fashion or maybe product design, but definitely on the software side of things, I think this is the must. Whoever has the skills, whoever understands this, basically are going to be filtered, in the first level, and they will have opportunities to engage in these conversations with future opportunities. Very, very important, I think, in this era.
Interesting. So basically, like you are saying, the students should be able to work with technology as well as the creativity, learn coding, and not should be a shy of it, of anything. So let me put across to this, thing, and what we have been following, complete
Mhm.
design professional. What, according to you, would be the complete design professional? Maybe in one sentence, or in short, like what? How would you visualize a complete design
Wow,
professional?
that's a hard one. I think, yeah, I mean, it totally depends on what industry, right? There is no one size fits all kind of thing. Um, but I would expect a designer in 2024 uh, to know what the future holds, at least for the creative industry. If not any tools, if not anything, like how the creative industry is being impacted by that. So if you have that knowledge, I think other skills, tangible, intangible, are to be learned, and they will be learned. But this, you can say, point of view or sort of philosophy of being aware that creative industry has already been disrupted. It's not like being will be disrupt, it's already there. So I would expect that designer to be aware of that and to already start thinking like, how he would adapt to the changing reality. So that is the base sort of requirement I would expect from any designer, that wants to, let's say, create a big change, or at least do something substantial professionally.
And, do you see innovations and changes taking place in terms of design education, in terms of designers and their roles in working in metaverse and virtual world?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So education, I think it's funny, like our education is so skewed. So there are a lot of schools, okay, not colleges, schools, which are now sort of asking students to play around with GPT, play around with these tools, do some assignments with technology, doing some robotics coding, etc., etc. Versus the higher education, that is meant to sort of teach you to sort of become professional, in the industry, that is still sort of lagging behind. I wouldn't say we are very far, but yes, there is definitely a skew, right? So I think we need to bridge that gap, if we want to sort of go ahead and sort of become leaders in whatever area that we want to be. So I think that is sort of number one. In terms of metaverse and other technologies, I mean, I think one good thing that has happened in India is how the gaming industry has matured, right, compared to, let's say, decade or two ago. And I've worked in Tencent. Like, China is a very, very mature game market. Japan is very, very mature. Korea is very, very mature, right? So one of the things, when I say mature, what has happened is the sort of player community, has sort of gathered together, and they've made this into something that is a mainstream culture. And that is what is happening in India also. So that has inspired, or that is inspiring a lot of, potential opportunities where designers can, not only sort of do the standard screen-based UI UX, but also now can actually sort of play, a creative role in designing experiences which are beyond the screen, so to say, or they are through the screen, if you're talking about AR. So I think that capability we already have. Is just that, as I think we go forward, and maybe a couple of years in future, when gaming matures even more, I think that will have an overspill sort of effect, or spillover effect, to many other industries. So you will see software companies also dabbling around, trying to leverage. Look at brands, for example, right? They're already leveraging AR and VR into their advertising or outreach sort of experiences. So that is a good thing, and this can only happen when something they can see or they can relate to locally within India, which is already happening. So I mean, I see a bright future for mixed reality and those kind of immersive and interactive technologies.
So you're talking about a lot about game design and gaming industry, but coming from, I'm pretty sure, like the traditional Indian backdrop. If you're playing games in school, like parents would be like, "Why are you playing game? Focus on studies and all."
Yeah.
So, what would be your take be on how game design which itself is a leader in use of technology and creativity, can kind of excel in the current scenario? And what if someone who's really interested in doing game design should be doing?
Right. So there are a couple of factors why, I mean, there is obviously this social layer, which judges people very, very harshly. And nothing to blame there. I think every country, has a certain societal lens through which, they look at all the sort of young generation. So that I think will change. Perhaps we can't do much apart from, signaling or giving proof that this could be a mainstream thing. It is changing, as we speak, right? There are so many game sort of companies. The industry is sort of maturing. So people are making money, designers are getting employed. But I would say, so one of the things I learned, for example, in China is, game designers not only think about engagement. I mean, I cannot generalize it, but there are layers of like design, right? So they also think from a business point of view, right? Because I mean, one way to sort of look at design or game design is how can I sort of create this cool thing or fun thing? But then if you go a little bit deep, either scientifically or either through practice or by experience, and you figure out what is the hook, how people can spend more time here, and then how that could sort of translate into rupees or dollars or whatever that is, right? So people who can figure that out basically today are the sort of winners in the gaming industry, right? Because then they can make games or they can distribute games to the right people so that, the whole sort of business model works around that. So I think as designers, apart from all the tools and sort of, the methods that we learn, we should also put a lens of, little bit of psychology, little bit of business, and then sort of look at game design from that point of view. And if you do that, I think the economic benefits will follow. And once that happens, I think those judgments from the society will also be in a way diluted, because people will see there is economic progress in general.
Thing. There are a lot of designers who are passing out, and then they go for the jobs and interviews. And any suggestions for them how to go about building portfolio, or as a recruiter, what would you be seeking in those budding or the freshly graduating designers?
I think that's a very relevant question. So, and we have had a lot of debates around this, with professors, with students. The reality of the market is there is definitely an oversupply of designers. Let me give you my personal example. I had opened up a design intern position on Intern Chala, last year, and I got about 600 applications. So there is no way I can look at 600, right? So there has to be a human way of judging this, right? I'm not gonna like forget about portfolio. I mean, I'm not gonna even look at, the skills of 600 people because I don't have, that much time. Of course, if this was like the head of design, maybe I would have spent some time because, it's very important for my business. So this is the reality. So there are a couple of things that I do expect from, applications that I receive. And that is, clear communication of their intent and their skill in their whatever, I wouldn't call it a cover letter, but like an intro email or intro application. Then when I look at their resume, just clear indication of their skill. Whoever is recruiting, especially if you are young and if you're just out of, uni, they are not looking for experts. Otherwise, they would have hired experts. They are looking for potential candidates who are aware or who are familiar with certain, tools and methods and skills, right? So it's important to sort of highlight that either in the resume or, highlight in that email. And then if those communications are good and you go to the portfolio, show me the most industry relevant project in your first slide, right? Not the same one, not the foundation that, hey, I started with drawing and, I came up last in the last sem I did this. It should be reversed because I don't have time as a recruiter or as an employer to look at your 16, 20 slides. So, these are like tactical sort of things. On a strategic thing, I think people who or students who will show this higher level of exposure to this latest technology, even if they are not so deep inside, or even if they are not experts, that relevance shows, or that skill, or let's say experimentation with that technology or tool, or the context, sort of shows the eagerness of the student to sort of try new things, be more relevant. So I think that would definitely attract the attention, and then perhaps they would go through that, at least the first filter, that sort of employers look at, when they're looking for this. Of course, this can be like a very, very deep discussion, but tactically, I think I would suggest them to sort of reorganize and sort of use their design thinking hat and think from an employer point of view, like what would they expect, if they're hiring you, and what can I match the same things, in terms of what I show to them.
Interesting. So I think we're running short of time, and I would just like to throw across one last question.
Sure.
This is for the ones who are planning or who would want to take up design education, who would want to join for the UG or for the masters, or who would want to take design as a career option. Any advice for them, or any suggestions, or any pathway or roadway you would want to suggest how to go about doing that? The ones who are like just applying to get into their UGs for the PGs to take up design as a career option.
Right. In short, go for it. But I would say, so there are a couple of things. And I've observed it, if you are doing design, or if you are getting in design because you don't like something else, I think just sort of reconsider or rethink about your decisions, because design is not an escape from engineering or whatever other sort of streams, right? I think you will only do well if you find some genuine interest in that. So please, sort of try and introspect a little bit. Of course, like surviving with design skills in the market, or like there are economic benefits, no problem at all. I think it's not one of those things where you will not be able to make money or find jobs or something. You will. But then if you want to be someone or do something great, just sort of make sure that you have a genuine interest, at least in terms of looking at things in from a creative point of view, or sort of solving problems in a different way, but have that curiosity, and only then jump into this. Not as an escape sort of route to something else. I would suggest, especially the UG guys, to sort of think over this from this point of view.
Just one last thing, just correct me if I'm wrong, but design is basically, as you were talking about, it inculcates programming, technology, and if you're working with products, maybe even, building stuff with material. So I think it's even when you go about doing design research and all, you're learning a bit of psychology as well. So correct me if I'm wrong, and possibly your take on this as well as a last statement, is culmination of all the fields which exist, from engineering to mathematics to colors and everything. Just last statement on this.
Absolutely. I think you summed it up very well. So designer, in my head, designer is a horizontal role, right? You can specialize in something, but I think a good designer perhaps has the knowledge, even if not working knowledge, at least the awareness about different fields. And then if they can smartly sort of figure how to leverage that, I think that is a sort of great quality of a good designer. So yes, I think designer is a horizontal role, and a little bit of everything definitely makes a good designer, a wholesome designer, so to say. Going back to your question on what is a ideal designer, I think a wholesome designer is someone who understands all the parts of it, either in bits or in this wholeness, whatever their interest is, and then connect the dots and leverage each of these.
Thanks, Dhaval. Over to you, Nitish. Hope we have met the time limit.
Thank you,
Yash.
Yash.
With some glitches around.
No, not a problem at all. And rather, I would like, since we have a couple of participants who are there with us, so if anybody has any questions, they can post it on the chat, and then probably we can pick up those. So we'll just give another 30 seconds. If somebody has something to put it across, they can. And I think quite a good and insightful session actually this was, from both the sides, and the way that Mr. Dhaval has articulated in terms of what needs to be done in the current trend and what students need to be emphasizing upon is very, very important, specifically with the UG, aspects of it. So that needs to be done so that they do not transition later on to another sector or maybe another domain, which is a very, very major concern these days. Anybody has any questions? Maybe if they can raise their hand, and if they have, or maybe they can post it on the chat window. Right. So I think with this, I think we don't have any questions as of now. So thank you so much, Professor Yash and Mr. Dhaval Joshi, for such an interactive and insightful session. And I'm sure that participants will have taken a good key takeaways and, with the session, and will also be keeping it in mind for the coming years in their life. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, to be a part of this Design Talk series. We would look forward to your presence in our future sessions as well. Till then, stay healthy, stay safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Mr. Das.
Ritesh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pradyumna sir.
Thank you.
Professor Vyas, sir, sorry, I thought you logged out. Would you like to say something? Sorry, Sir, you are on mute. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.